As I sat in the sterile hospital room, anger and disbelief coursing through my veins, little did I know that my battle with cancer was about to take an unexpected turn. It all started when Karen nurse says that I'm faking my cancer. So I got her fired. Here's how it all went down. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I'd have to defend my illness, but here I was, sitting in the sterile, white room of St. Mary's Hospital feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. My name is Alex, and I was diagnosed with a rare form of eye cancer. It's been a tough journey, but nothing prepared me for the encounter with Nurse Karen. It started off as a regular checkup. I was sitting in the waiting room, nervously tapping my foot when Nurse Karen called my name. She had a stern look, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. As we walked to the examination room, I tried to make small talk, but she cut me off abruptly. In the examination room, things took a turn for the worse. I explained my symptoms and the diagnosis I had received from Dr. Stevens. Karen, with a scoff, said, "Eye cancer? That's rare. Are you sure you're not just overreacting to a simple eye infection?" I was taken aback. "No, it's been diagnosed. I've been undergoing treatment for months now," I replied, trying to keep my composure. Karen chuckled. "It's not eye cancer. You're just high, LOL. People come up with all sorts of stories these days." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was she actually accusing me of faking cancer? My frustration grew, but I decided to let it go for the moment, hoping the checkup would proceed normally. After the initial confrontation, I tried to reason with Karen. "Look, I've been through multiple tests and treatments. It's been a hard journey. Why would I lie about something like this?" Karen leaned in, her voice dripping with condescension. "Honey, I've been a nurse for over 15 years. I've seen all sorts of patients, and I can tell when someone's faking it. You're just not convincing." I felt a mix of disbelief and anger. "I'm not trying to be convincing. I'm telling you the truth about my health." She shrugged, flipping through my medical file with a disinterested look. "Well, your truth sounds like fiction to me." In the supervisor's office, I recounted every detail of my interaction with Karen. The supervisor, Mrs. Thompson, listened intently, her expression growing more concerned with each word. "I assure you, we take these matters very seriously," Mrs. Thompson said. "We will conduct a thorough investigation." As I left her office, I felt a small glimmer of hope. Maybe this nightmare would soon be over. The investigation seemed to drag on forever. I received calls from the hospital's HR department asking for more details. They interviewed other staff members and patients who had interacted with Karen. During this time, I continued my treatment, but the stress of the situation weighed heavily on me. My friends tried to be supportive, but I could see the doubt in some of their eyes. The story had spread, and Karen's version seemed to be gaining traction. When Karen was finally fired, I thought I would feel vindicated, but the reality was far different. The community's reaction was split. While some people sympathized with me, others saw me as the person who got a veteran nurse fired over what they considered a minor issue. I started receiving anonymous messages online, some accusing me of being an attention seeker, others outright calling me a liar. My social media accounts were flooded with hateful comments. Even when I went out, I could feel the stares. People whispered as I passed by, their eyes filled with judgment. It was as if Karen's baseless accusations had left a permanent mark on my reputation. I tried to put on a brave face, but inside, I was crumbling. The physical battle with cancer was hard enough, but this social battle was something I wasn't prepared for. In a cruel twist of fate, I had become more known for the controversy with Karen than for my actual illness. The more I tried to defend myself, the more people doubted me. It was a vicious cycle that seemed to have no end. As I sit here reflecting on everything that's happened, I can't help but feel a sense of loss. I lost not just my privacy and peace of mind, but also my faith in people's capacity for empathy and understanding. Karen's stubbornness and false accusations didn't just cost her the job, they cost me a part of my life that I'll never get back. And that's a truth more bitter and repulsive than any lie she could have concocted. Wow, what a heartbreaking story. It's so sad to see someone go through such a challenging battle with cancer, only to face accusations and doubt from others. Sending love and support to Alex. Stay strong. Ever since I left my tiny hometown for the bustling life in the city, I've felt a growing rift with my family, but nothing prepared me for the bizarre twist that came with the mysterious funeral of my grandparents. Here's how it all went down. I'm in my 30s, female, and I've caused a major blow-up in my family. Now, none of them are talking to me. For background, my hometown is tiny, with a population of 500, and when I went 2 hours away to the city, 15,000 population, for college, I loved it. I ended up staying after graduation, got married, and have been happy here for a decade. I visit my hometown every few weeks or so, call or text my family nearly daily, and thought we were all good. My family's pretty small, just my brother, mom, stepdad, dad, stepmom, and an aunt and uncle. Mom's siblings, never married, no kids. My mother's grandparents moved to my hometown when I was in high school and were just down the street from us. My family has always been pretty drama-free, aside from my parents' divorce when I was a kid, and we've been happy. The step-parents blended in perfectly, and we share holidays and celebrations together. We're all super close and just the perfect little group. Ever since I moved away, the topic of when am I moving back has been constant, and I've always laughed it off. My hometown has nothing. You have to drive 30 minutes for milk and bread. There are 60, 90-minute one-way commutes to work, and floods shut down the main road every Easter. I love the town, but I love it here more. I have parks, stores, community events, a library. The city is great. My family grumbles that I need to move back, but I refuse. I've been trying to encourage them to come here, especially since it's not an hour's drive to the nearest medical facility. Now, to the meat and potatoes. Both my grandparents passed over COVID times. They were both old, and their health had been failing for a while, so it was only a matter of time. Thankfully, they didn't catch it, but it made visiting them impossible, and we survived mostly through FaceTime. They both passed in their sleep, months apart. Both were cremated and kept securely under the kitchen sink for safekeeping while the pandemic blew over. That was 2021. Well, I just found out my family held a funeral for them and scattered the ashes in my uncle's maple grove over the summer. No one said a word to me about it. I visited numerous times before and after, and not one word. I only found out because my great-uncle from California posted on Facebook a few weeks ago that he is entering hospice and was so thankful his health stayed strong enough for him to see his little sister, my grandma, to her final resting place. I was confused and called my mom. She was all, yeah, the funeral we had in July, remember? Y'all, I visited them for the 4th of July. They did the funeral on the 8th, not a word about it to me. They had planned this for months, long enough to arrange for my infirm great-uncle to be brought over from the other side of the country. Apparently, they talked about it all the time. Everyone is convinced I was at the funeral. They swear I was there. I can prove I wasn't because Google's got my location history. My hubby is baffled because he was supposedly there too, but he had to work every weekend in June and July. The time clock doesn't lie. My family straight up forgot about me. I'm hurt. I'm sad. And they're pissed at me for lying. They think I'm causing drama over nothing. Nothing I say can convince them I wasn't there. My family is united in this, and they've all put me on read until I admit I'm wrong. They think I've gone nuts. Either there's a doppelganger of me attending events or my family doesn't want to admit they screwed up. I'm not backing down. Thanksgiving is coming up and my family's been vague posting on Facebook about forgetful kids and mental health. It's so freaking weird, and I don't know if I'm in bizarro world or what's going on. My mom's best friend reached out and said I should just admit I was wrong and apologize, that I'm causing my mom so much unnecessary stress. I asked her if she's checked everyone's home for CO2. She hung up on me. We checked our CO2 and our testers are running just fine. I have reached out to a few people in my hometown to check in on my folks, and they all say they're fine. I even spoke with the local volunteer firefighter group to see if they could check for gas leaks. I'm not sure if they were able to. I don't know what to do. I've shown them the proof I wasn't there, but they know I'm tech savvy and just assume I photoshopped it. Hubby says we need a break, and we're going to be staying home this holiday season. It's 11/27 and Thanksgiving just happened. Hubby and I stayed home. We got a small turkey and made our own little Thanksgiving. It was nice. We ate around noon, then watched a movie, and later sat outside with a bottle of wine to watch the sunset behind the trees and neighbor houses. We usually take the day before off, drive to my folks, stay the night, and help with the Thanksgiving Day cooking. So it wasn't until Wednesday night that my mom broke the silence. Mom called and asked when I was showing up, and I told her we were staying home this year, but for them to have a happy Thanksgiving, and to give the rest of the family my love. She was quiet for a long time after I said that, and I think she eventually mumbled an, okay, or something, and hung up. It wasn't an angry hang-up, just a hang-up. On Thanksgiving Day, I sent a group Happy Thanksgiving gift to our family group chat. I received a few Happy Thanksgiving back. No one said anything else. There's been no posts on Facebook. This highlights the complexities of maintaining relationships over distances and the challenges that arise when family members have differing perceptions of events. The OP's experience underscores the importance of clear communication and the potential consequences of misunderstandings within a family. In the span of 5 years, my life transformed from marital bliss to a heartbreaking revelation. After the loss of our first child and the joy of expecting triplets, my husband's explosive reaction to their gender at our baby shower shattered my world. Here's how it all went down. I have been with my husband for 5 years, and we have been married for 3 of those years. Our marriage was perfect, and we were incredibly happy. It felt like our entire life was filled with perfection. Going to church on Sundays, having a loving husband, and living in a beautiful home. Everything seemed to fall into place. A few months after we got married, I became pregnant, and both my husband and I were overjoyed. Our family shared in our excitement as well. My husband was particularly thrilled when we found out we were having a baby boy, as he had always expressed his desire to have at least one son. I even made an effort to mend my relationship with my mother so that our son could have a connection with his grandparents. Initially, I had distanced myself from my mother due to her treatment of my brother when he married his husband. However, my brother assured me that he was okay with my decision to reconcile with her since he still loved her, and our baby would be her first grandchild. Unfortunately, our son was stillborn and it shattered me. I fell into a deep depression and at one point even considered ending my life. However, my husband was there for me throughout this difficult time, and together we managed to navigate through the grief. Our marriage felt stronger than ever, and life slowly started to regain its beauty, even though it was no longer perfect. About 5 months ago, I discovered that I am pregnant again, and shortly after, we learned that we are expecting triplets. My husband and I were overjoyed, and he became an even more loving and attentive husband. Since we had always envisioned having 2 to 3 children, we agreed that we would not try for any more after this. Given our excitement as well as that of our families, we decided to host a baby shower and a gender reveal party. We entrusted my brother with the knowledge of the triplets' genders, and he bought confetti cannons with colored streamers inside. The baby shower was a wonderful event, attended by my parents, in-laws, my brother, his husband, their daughter, and many friends and extended family members. It felt like a dream come true, and I was eagerly anticipating the gender reveal. I genuinely didn't mind the gender of our babies. All I wanted was for them to be healthy. However, my husband was clearly excited about the possibility of having 3 sons. When the time came, my husband, my brother, and I each shot a confetti cannon, revealing pink confetti for all 3. I was thrilled, as was my brother. However, my husband screamed at the top of his lungs and violently hit the table in front of us, breaking it. He yelled at me, accusing me of not giving him at least one son, and blaming me for the loss of our first child. That's when I burst into tears. I had been so devastated by our son's stillbirth, and a part of me had felt responsible. Now, my husband, the love of my life, was telling me it was my fault. My brother immediately intervened and tried to calm my husband, but my husband pushed him. So, my brother guided me inside, where I cried in the living room, while my husband's mother attempted to calm him down. I could hear him shouting outside about how having 3 daughters was too many, how he didn't want 4 kids but also wanted a son. Since that moment, my husband and I have hardly communicated. He's been sleeping in the guest room, and when we do interact, he is visibly upset and angry, trying to pick arguments with me. I attempted to talk to him about it and asked how he would be with our 3 daughters, but he lashed out and told me he would provide them with shelter and food, but he wasn't interested in daughters and didn't plan to have a close relationship with them. That confirmed my decision to divorce him, and I cried myself to sleep last night. Today, I confided in my mother and mother-in-law about everything, but they told me I can't divorce my husband just because he wants a son. I don't want my daughters to grow up in an unloving household where their parents constantly argue, and their father doesn't love them. The moment my husband accused me of killing our son, I instantly lost all love I had for him, and I don't want my daughters to experience that kind of environment. However, both my mom and mother-in-law believe it's natural for men to desire sons, and that at least he isn't saying he will mistreat them. They treat this as an absolute fact, and make me feel foolish and insignificant. I don't know what to do. My mother and mother-in-law make me question if I'm overreacting to my husband's behavior, but my brother assures me that this is not normal, as he and his husband are both men who absolutely adore their daughter. I'm also uncertain about my own future if I divorce my husband. I don't work, and I'm unsure how I'll be able to find a job that can support me and 3 babies on my own, or how I'll manage my time when I have to work. I feel lost and helpless. I'm torn because I'm afraid that divorce might be a hasty decision, and perhaps my mother and mother-in-law are right. Am I a jerk? What should I do? I have made the decision to divorce my husband due to his behavior and the kind of person he has shown himself to be. I believe it is best for me and my daughters not to live in that kind of environment. During this process, I will be moving in with my brother and brother-in-law, BIL. They have a spacious and welcoming home where I will have my own room, and there is even a nursery for my triplets. Initially, I was concerned that living with my brother and BIL, along with 3 babies, would be overwhelming for them or become a burden. However, they reassured me that they would love to have us, and even offered to install a baby monitor in their bedroom to help with nighttime awakenings. My BL has a well-paying job, and my brother works from home, providing a stable environment for me and the support of my brother in raising my nieces. My niece is also excited about us living together. The current plan is for me to stay with my brother and BIL for a while Once my babies are old enough to be enrolled in daycare, which my BIL has kindly offered to pay for, I can begin searching for a job of my own, saving money, and eventually moving into a place of my own with my daughters. I am incredibly grateful for my brother and BIL. They truly feel like angels. Additionally, my brother and I have made the decision to go no contact with our mother. We have discussed her past behaviors towards us, including how she treated my brother when he came out and got married, as well as how she has treated me recently. We believe this is the best course of action, as we have given her numerous chances to change and be kinder, but she has consistently refused. We want our daughters to grow up in a loving and supportive family. When I found out that my husband had left for church this morning, my brother BIL and I went to my house to gather my important documents, clothes, sentimental items, and baby supplies. My BIL's mother kindly watched over my niece while we did this. She has offered to be a grandmother to my babies, and I happily accepted her offer. I must admit I shed some tears during this process, as I have been quite emotional lately, but they were mostly tears of happiness. Since my brother and I did not attend church, my ladies' Bible study group reached out to me through a group text, asking if we were all right and if we needed anything. I responded honestly, sharing the truth about what had happened, and they were all shocked and horrified. They expressed their support and pride in me for taking action, and they are even planning a bake sale at the church to raise money for me and my babies. It turns out that one of the members of my husband's men's Bible group is the husband of one of my friends from the Bible study group. When he learned about what happened, he confronted my husband and reprimanded him to the point where my husband cried. I must admit, hearing about that brought me some joy. Even my pastor called to check on me and ensure that I am okay. He reassured me that I will always have the support of the people in our church, which I am incredibly grateful for. After my husband returned home from church and noticed that most of my belongings were missing, he angrily called me multiple times. However, my brother-in-law, BIL, intervened and spoke to him, offering to pay for therapy to help him cope with the grief over the loss of our son, and also advised him to leave me alone. Since then, my husband has not attempted to contact me, and he has not yet given my BIL a response regarding the therapy offer. Overall, I am extremely grateful for my brother and BIL. Without their support, I would not be able to navigate through this difficult situation. I am hopeful for the future, even though it may not be the future I had envisioned for myself and my children. Nonetheless, it is the best one I can currently provide for them. They say it takes a village, and my children will certainly have a village filled with love and support. The story highlights the profound impact of unmet expectations and deep-rooted gender biases within a relationship. It underscores the importance of empathy, understanding, and communication between partners, especially during challenging times. The narrative also sheds light on the difficult choices one might face in pursuit of a healthy and supportive environment for oneself and one's children. When Paula, my father's girlfriend, dismissed my pregnancy with condescension, it sparked a family rift that would test the bonds of blood and love. As I navigated the challenges of my first pregnancy amidst their growing disinterest and disdain, tensions escalated, leading to a clash that would redefine our relationships forever. This is the story of family dynamics, hidden resentments, and the arrival of a new life that changed everything. Here's how it all went down. My father has been dating Paula for 4 years. I never got to know her well, as I was about to move out when we met. My sister still lives between our parents and likes Paula, but finds her annoying. Paula has an odd attitude towards pregnancy. It became most obvious when my cousin announced she was expecting back in 2021. Her daughter would be the first great-grandchild. We weren't even certain that our grandma would be around to witness it. During an emotional announcement where everyone was overjoyed, Paula commented that she felt it wasn't a big deal and didn't get what all the fuss was about. She maintained that stance throughout the entire 9 months. However, once the baby was born, Paula suddenly became overly interested, which made my cousin clearly uncomfortable. Earlier this year, my husband, 28M, and I announced our pregnancy. Initially, my father was ecstatic. Since this would be his first grandchild, I assumed his excitement would continue. But according to my sister, Paula was just as condescending as we expected, if not more. Every time I shared something about my pregnancy, or baby, gender, first kicks, ultrasound pictures, etc., Paula would respond with one of 3 phrases: "Okay, that's not a big deal," or "Is that all she talks about these days?" At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, but after a few weeks, I noticed that my father was also losing interest in my pregnancy. As the months went by, he became increasingly distant and aloof. He started to ignore or not pay attention to most of the updates I shared about my baby. He also skipped our name reveal. We did that instead of a gender reveal. It was just a casual lunch party with a game we made up. And the baby shower because, as he put it, Paula doesn't think it's worth it. On Halloween, my son was born, and I decided not to inform my father and Paula. After nearly 9 months of disinterest and excuses, I didn't see a reason to include them. During my 4-day hospital stay, only our closest friends and family visited us. The day before we were discharged, I posted a picture of my son on Instagram, and that's when my father found out. He called to ask why I hadn't informed him and Paula or invited them to meet my baby. I told him the truth. They showed no interest or involvement, emotionally or physically, throughout my pregnancy, so they would have to find out about the baby news like everyone else. Now, my father and Paula are furious, accusing me of using my son as a pawn and intentionally keeping them away due to pettiness. They claim I'm holding the fact that they missed a few insignificant parties against them. My husband and most of my family support my decision. While my sister is mostly on my side, she still believes I should have told our father since this is his first grandchild, and he had to find out through social media. She thinks this is all Paula's fault, and I should apologize to our dad. Am I a jerk? I want to clarify some things. Does Paula have /want/like kids? Paula doesn't have children and doesn't want to have them. She has never been pregnant, as she mentioned to my sister on some occasions. Paula's feelings towards kids. Although Paula doesn't want children, she does like kids, especially babies. She showed a lot of affection towards my cousin's daughter when she was born, and I believe she would do the same with my son. It's pregnancy and the events surrounding it that seem to be an issue for her. The age gap between my father and Paula. Paula is actually older than the previous women my father has been with since divorcing my mom. It surprises me that they are still dating, as his relationships tend to last only a couple of years. Why does my sister find Paula annoying? According to my sister, Paula's annoying habits include frequently speaking in a baby voice, mostly around my father, interrupting others while they are talking, and criticizing women on the street behind their backs. I haven't spent enough time with Paula to confirm these claims, but I have witnessed some of the first two habits during previous visits. Paula's behavior once my cousin's daughter was born. Paula showed a lot of interest in my cousin's daughter, often requesting more pictures of her. She made comments about the baby not resembling my cousin's husband. Paula even tried to get the baby to say her name when she was only 5 months old. She would frequently post pictures with the baby on Instagram without my cousin's approval. During our visits, Paula always wanted to hold my cousin's daughter and hesitated to give her to anyone else. Last Christmas, she wanted my cousin to open her gift for the baby first and was disappointed when the baby didn't show the same level of excitement. Paula also made comments about my cousin not bouncing back after giving birth and spoke negatively about my cousin's husband behind his back. What updates did I make about my pregnancy? Some people in the comments may have misunderstood updates as social media posts, but I want to clarify that I rarely posted about my pregnancy on social media. I made only 2 posts while pregnant and one to announce my son's birth, all of which were on my private Instagram account. I don't use TikTok. Many of my coworkers didn't even know I was pregnant until I showed up one day with a 7-month baby bump. Some of them only found out when I went on maternity leave, as I do most of my work sitting down. The updates I mentioned were only shared with my family and close friends. They mainly focused on mine and my son's health, and I communicated them either in person or through text phone calls. Most of the updates I shared with my father were through text, as we don't see each other in person frequently due to my work schedule. Also, my father and I have had problems in the past over me not telling him anything, and my relatively new habit of updating him on what has been going on in my life is an effort to remedy that. Seriously, I get where people were coming from, but I find it concerning that we live in a time where someone can't mention updates about their pregnancy without people assuming they're talking about social media. Did I talk to my father about his or Paula's behavior? Yes, several times. He said he'd try to be more involved but never made any attempt to do so. He either didn't remember our conversations or genuinely didn't care. I'm fine with Paula not being interested in my pregnancy or the 2 events I invited her and my father to. We don't know each other that well. What I'm not fine with is her rudeness whenever I shared any information with my family, as well as the fact that my dad let himself be dragged down by her behavior. How many events did I invite them to during my pregnancy? Literally the only 2 I mentioned. The name reveal lunch and the baby shower. Why a name reveal? Me and my husband hate gender reveals, but we still wanted a small, lighthearted affair with close friends and family. And calling it a party was an exaggeration on my part. It was a small lunch with a Clue-style game my husband and I created. I talked to my sister about it, and we both think that had I not told my father the lunch was baby-related, he and Paula might have come. Off topic, I'm pretty proud of that game. So here's a small description of what we did. Feel free to skip this. We pretty much made a custom Clue board game. Rather than guessing the suspect, weapon, and murder location, the goal was to guess the name. There were 6 options. The first stuffed animal we'd gotten him, also 6 options. And a random room in our apartment, 9 options. And we mostly kept that part just to make things harder for the players. We used a template of the clue board as a base and added mini versions of the rooms in our apartment. We got miniature animals to stand in for the weapons, and we also made the cards from scratch. I work with animation, and my husband briefly studied graphic design. We had some help from my architect friend and 2 other friends who got design degrees. It was a little over the top, but we had a lot of fun doing it. It was basically a collective passion project. Not everyone cares about your pregnancy. Having a baby is a normal thing. You're not the main character of everyone's life. At no point did I express any of that, nor did I expect to be treated like Demeter. I am perfectly aware that pregnancy is not an unusual experience, and I'm not special just because I had a baby. Most of the time, I actually hate being the center of attention. I updated my family about my pregnancy because my son is their family too, and my friends because they asked and worried about me. I never expected any special treatment from any of them, but I do expect to be treated with respect, or at the very least, politely. You shouldn't cut your dad and his girlfriend out of your son's life just because he didn't care about your pregnancy. Again, I never said I would. All I did was not tell them my son was born. I made it clear that they were free to come meet him once we brought him home. And this isn't about them not showing up to parties or not caring about my pregnancy as much as I did. My father missed my graduation. Not coming to my baby shower doesn't bother me that much. It's the condescending attitude and lack of interest that both my dad and Paula have been displaying my entire pregnancy that made me decide not to tell them. Did my father know my due date? I told him about it several times. My son was born the day after my due date. At no point did he try to reach out before or during my hospital stay. My best guess is that he forgot about it. Who did come to visit us in the hospital? My mom, my stepdad, my sister, my maternal aunt, and 2 cousins, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and a few of our closest friends. Overall, about 15 people came to meet our son during our 4-day hospital stay. My mother, sister, brother-in-law, and 2 of my best friends, including my baby's godmother, were the only people who came more than once. I also want to add that besides those people, the only ones who found out about my son's birth prior to my post on Instagram were the ones who asked. My father and Paula were not among those people. My final conclusion was, be rude to me through a hard time in my life? Fine, have fun in the peanut gallery. I decided that I wasn't comfortable with the idea of Paula holding and cooing over my newborn. After almost 9 months of rudeness and lack of acknowledgement, I told my father that he was welcome to come to my apartment and meet his grandson for the first time, but I didn't want Paula to tag along. My intention was not to ban her forever, but rather to wait a month or 2, or until she apologized in a perfect world. We had a small fight over it, but my dad agreed and came to meet him without Paula. He visited us a couple more times that week. During these visits, he was cold and short with me and my husband, and I ended up being cold in return. This was not my proudest moment, but I was too tired and angry to care at the time. A little under 2 weeks ago, my paternal aunt and 2 cousins, including the one I mentioned in my previous post, came from out of state. My cousins stayed at my apartment, while my aunt stayed at my father's. During her stay, my aunt witnessed several instances of Paula openly bad-mouthing me and complaining about my unfair treatment of her, but she didn't comment on it at first. However, the day before she left, she saw my father not only agreeing with Paula, but also calling me childish and ungrateful. My aunt knew the whole story, just like most of my family. She reprimanded both my father and Paula for how they treated me during my pregnancy. My sister was present and eventually joined in. This resulted in a huge fight between all 4 of them. Eventually, my sister started crying. She drove to my place and told me everything before falling asleep on my couch. My father called me and we had a 40-minute fight. Despite his attempts to play the "but I'm your father" card, I made it clear that I owed Paula nothing, especially not my time and attention. The next day, my aunt came over for lunch. She informed us that after our argument, there was another massive fight, this time between my dad and Paula. She didn't catch the specific words, only the screaming. A few days later, my dad called me again. He apologized and promised to try to be more involved. I'm not sure how sincere he was, but I accepted the apology and told him he's on thin ice. I am willing to help him be a part of our lives, but I refuse to be the only one making the effort. It's not my responsibility to engage him in things he shows no interest in. If he doesn't invest in something, he can't expect to be treated the same as those who do. My sister returned to his place a few days later, and Paula wasn't there. Apparently, she's staying with her mother for a while. Neither of us know anything else about that. If this turns out to be an actual breakup, my father will probably wait a while before confirming it. I never wished ill on her, but I'd be lying if I said I had faith in their relationship, or any of my father's relationships for that matter. After countless fights and the challenges of caring for a newborn, I'm exhausted. I'm glad this chapter is over. My relationship with my father is still very strained, and I'm not particularly proud of how things turned out, but my main focus now is my son, and it warms my heart to see how loved he already is. Paula's disinterest and your father's detachment led to emotional strain, resulting in your response to limit their involvement. Going forward, open communication and clear boundaries could help in healing and potentially rebuilding these relationships, with your child's well-being as a priority. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.